In the last video we showed the media aspect of the fact-check assistant, and now it's time to go into the sources. And in this example I could be a reporter scanning through social media looking for news stories to report on. And maybe I end up on Twitter, and more specifically this particular Twitter account. It belongs to a Swedish journalist, Ingrid Carlqvist. And I think it's time to verify the source by the fact-check assistant to make sure if I can trust any of the claims that are made on her Twitter. And let's start by clicking on the Sources tab in the top bar. Here you can see a full list of the previously added sources, like TT Nyhetsbyrån from the dengue fever story in video 2. And I start by clicking Add Source. The first thing I do is name my source, and since this is a specific person, I go by the journalist's name. After that, I paste in her Twitter URL, and I also give a more detailed description of the source. This is of course optional, but the more details you give, the more you help your fellow journalists and give a more meaningful contribution to the fact-check assistant. After that, I submit the source, and I will now add a review of it. The first thing I have to do is establish the source's credentials. In this case, I just Google her name right here, and I can find lots of information about her, and it's clear that she has a long journalistic career and has an affiliation with the far-right movement in Sweden. Therefore, I answer no to the question at hand and move on to the next step. The next thing I have to do is establish if the source has failed a fact-check in the past. In this particular instance, the resource at hand, Google search, does not give me anything new, so I answer not sure. The next question asks me if my source has a history of poor statements and writings and tweets, etc. Here I have 4 different resources to choose from, but I also know from previous Google searches that I can answer yes already. And I leave an optional note to my peers as well. And then I'm moving on. Next, I'm asked to see if the source is connected to different biased networks or individuals or trolls even. This time I'm going to use the resource Bodometer, which is one of the suggested resources right here. The Bodometer checks the activity of a Twitter account, and it gives a score based on how likely it is for the account to be a bot. I enter Ingrid Carlqvist's username and I press Check Followers. This will give me an indication of Ingrid Carlqvist's eventual connections to troll accounts or biased groups of Twitter users. As you can see, many of the random selected followers seem to be bots. Therefore, I press yes on this question. On the question if it's difficult to find more information about the source on local directories, I answer no. This is because there is plenty of information just by Googling and going to different yellow pages sites online. Lastly, I'm asked to describe any other problems that could affect my source's reliability. In my optional note, I write that my source is openly described as a political-based public figure for the far right. And right here, I get a score, a calculated score of somewhat untrustworthy. However, after completing this review, my personal assessment is that this source is not trustworthy, so I will write that. And I also have to explain my final verdict. Lastly, I choose the option to share my review and make it public to other users. And as you can see now, the review is now visible in the source list. In the next video, we're going to go deeper into the resources of the fact-check assistant. Thanks.